everyone, and welcome to another video from Colour with Claire. In this video I'm going to be showing you how to do this beautiful green blue mermaid hair that I did in the book Mysteria. So I posted this picture to my channels a couple of days ago and I was overwhelmed with comments asking for me to do a tutorial for this. So I am using Derwent Lightfast pencils. That's what I used on all of this page, so that's what we're using. You can use any pencils you like, but I really love how these colours blend together. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you the principle of how to colour a braid, because it is a braid that people were asking about as well. You can use it on any kind of hairstyle, but this is just specifically to show you how to colour a braid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a section of a braid, hopefully. So there. Now just imagine that that is a plait. This one's quite a loose braid here, as you can see, but just imagine that this is a section of the braid. You'll see what I'm doing as the video progresses when we move on to the illustration. But this is a section of a braid, and this is the technique. So the colours that I'm using from the Derwent Lightfast range are Pacific Blue, Peridot Blue and Grass Green 70%. Now whether those are available to buy open stock at the moment, I'm not sure. I will leave links in the description if you want to do that, but just find yourself a lovely deep rich blue that's got a lot of green tone to it. Then find yourself a sort of a parrot green, that kind of exotic sort of green that's got a lot of blue in it, and then find yourself a grass green or a spring green that's, you know, very, very true to a green colour. So that's all you need. Now the first thing I will always do is start off with my darkest colour. So I've got the Pacific Blue here, and so this is your section of braid. What we're going to do is we're going to do the top and the bottom first, and I'm going to be using flicking motions both away from myself and then when we go to the top toward myself. You might want to turn your page around if it's easier for you to just flick away all the time, but what we're going to do is we're going to flick some colour into the bottom of this braid like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave gaps, and I'll just show you exactly what I mean in a second when I've left the gaps. There we go. So you can see that this is a very jagged edge. I haven't brought all of the strokes up to the same point on the section. So you can see we've got a longer bit here, then it goes shorter, and then a longer bit here goes shorter, longer bit here. Now when I come down from the top, I want to put my strokes in between those spaces, because we don't want the hair to look like it's got a straight section of white in the middle. It's just not going to look, you know, it's not going to look realistic. So as I come down, I'm just going to make sure that I keep my strokes shorter in the centre, because you can see I've got a long bit here, so I want to keep that bit short, and then a bit longer here where it's going to sort of dip into this area that I've left open, and then shorter here. Again, we've got another sort of open area there, so I would just bring my strokes down a little bit more. So it's sort of filling the spaces that we've left here at the bottom, and that's the kind of technique that you want to be using. Now, I use a flicking motion because it makes the stroke lighter as it goes away from you or towards you. So wherever you start off, it's going to be a darker, heavier line, and then as you pull it away, it will get lighter and fluffier, so it'll look more like realistic hair strands. So once you've done that, you're going to move on to your middle colour, which is the Peridot Blue in this case. Now you don't need a lot of your middle colour at all. It's basically just a transition, a stopgap to get you from the darker colour to the lighter colour. And we're just going to follow exactly the same strokes that we've made already. We're going to start about halfway into the colour that you just put down, and we're going to just lengthen those strokes a little bit, but still keep the same random zigzag kind of pattern that you've kept. So we're still keeping the low areas low and the high areas high here, and then again from the top, so bringing that long bit down there, keeping this bit quite short because that bit is coming up from the top. Hopefully this is making sense. And then bringing this bit down a little bit, so we're sort of filling in the gaps. So we're starting from the middle of the first colour that you put down and then flicking it up and away, and you'll end up with this sort of jagged looking white area in the centre. You then get your lightest colour. This is my 70% grass green, and again just lengthening the strokes and starting from the centre of the colour you've just put down. Now we do not want these greens to meet in the middle. We want there to be a lovely bit of jagged white left. So we're not quite meeting. We're going into each other's sort of dips. It sounds very rude. We're going into each other's dips, but we're not meeting. So let's just add a bit more colour here. There we go. So you will end up with a jagged line of white in the centre, and that is your highlight, where your light is showing on your hair and it's making it look really silky and shiny. Now what I would then do is go back to the darker colour and just make sure that there are no gaps of colour here right at each point at the top and the bottom. So really just burnishing it, filling it in, and you can even sort of bring out a few strands of this dark colour if you want to show more strands. It's up to you how you do it. I do like the very rough stranded look rather than burnishing it and making it completely flat and smooth. Now on the final step of doing the section of the braid, I would then take the darker colour and border each section. So you can see I'm just bordering it, and that will make more sense when you see me do the illustration, because it acts as a kind of a shadow. Because don't forget, I can't draw, but you're going to have another, let me see, you're going to have another kind of braid section going down, and then another, and it's going to act as shadow, you know, to border it. Now that's not to say that I want it to look really, really harsh. So you can come in with your middle colour and just very lightly, with light pressure, just blend it so it doesn't look as harsh, but it's still got that border around it. And that is the basics of the technique of what I'm going to be doing today. Now we've got the crown of the head as well, which is slightly different, and I'm just going to go through that with you as I'm doing it on the illustration. But as for every single section of the braid, that is exactly what I'm doing. There's going to be no difference whatsoever, so don't worry that it's a bit sped up. That's exactly what I'm doing on every single section. So hope that makes sense, and let's get on with the crown. Okay, so on this particular illustration we have the shading already done for us, so we know where we need to put our highlight and our darker areas. Now this illustration is by Mariola Budek, and it's a freebie that's available on her Facebook page. I'll be putting the link in the description of this video just in case you want to practice on the same page that I am, but you can do it on any page as long as it's got some hair on it. You can do it. So a lot of people with the crown of the head might just go dark at the top, dark at the bottom, and then leave the white highlight in the middle. But as you can see from this illustration, the shading has also gone in a stripe across the centre of the crown. So we need to put some dark in the centre and create two light highlighted points rather than one in the middle. Now, sorry for any banging you can hear in the background. I'm having my roof redone and there's nowhere else I can go to get away from this banging, so I do apologise. So what I'm doing is exactly the same as I did on the initial little tutorial that I showed you. So we've started off dark at the top, transition colour, middle colour, and then we've got our lighter colour. And we're going straight down into the highlight that the illustrator has left. So don't forget, you don't want your greens to meet in the middle. You do still want there to be a good area of white space, and we want to keep it nice and jagged, rough and random. We do not want it straight. So as you can see, I've taken my darkest colour and I'm going across that centre bit of shadow that the illustrator has left. So I've just plotted it out really lightly first where I want my jagged edges to be, and then I'm coming in with harder pressure and just filling it in a little bit more here. So making sure that your strokes are really, really uneven, and just trying to get a little bit of variation in there. That's the main sort of thing that we're trying to achieve with this technique. We want it to look really rough and ready, and it does help to add to the realism of it as well, because hair does not go in a straight sort of silky line no matter what you see on the shampoo adverts on TV. So just filling in with that darker colour here, just making sure it really is very dark at the centre, and obviously it gets lighter as the strokes go up or down, but just making sure that centre point is really, really dark. flicking up a few different strands here and there where I want it to just be a bit varied. And then our next colour, the middle colour, again just lengthening the stroke, so we'll start off going up towards the crown of the head, starting in the centre of the green, just like I showed you at the beginning of the video, centre of the blue, sorry, and pushing the green upwards with nice flat strokes. So just making it really, really jagged. It's exactly the same as we did with the section of the braid that I showed you. It's just in a slightly different area of the head. So I'm just filling in with that centre colour any bits of white tooth of the paper that are still showing up where the darker colour is, and that will help to blend it as well. And then I'm flicking downwards now, not forgetting that we do have to leave room for our lightest colour and room to keep that white highlight in there as well. So you kind of have to gauge it. You probably might be doing this on a different illustration, and there will be different sizes of illustration as well. So it could be that it's a really, really small section of hair that you have to do. So in that case, you wouldn't be putting anywhere near as much or as thick of a swatch of colour as I'm doing. You have to scale it right down and just gauge how much you can put on, so that it isn't going to go straight into that white highlight and diminish it completely. So when you've done your transition colour, you'll then get your lightest, which is the green, and again just extending those flicks up so that they almost meet but not quite, and keeping it nice and jagged and rough. And you can come back in as many times as you want really with your darker pencil, add in some more strokes so it looks a little bit more like individual strands of hair. As it goes at the moment, because I'm doing a voiceover, I have actually recorded all of this video already, so I know how it's going to turn out. And right at the end of this video, when I finish the long braid, you will see me come back up to this area because it looks a little bit too linear. So sometimes you have to sort of leave a section for a while and then do the rest of it and then come back to try and sort of make it match. So you might notice that it looks a little bit sort of harsh, the lines at the moment, especially the deepest, darkest line. And I'm going to come in right at the end, you'll see me come in and just add a few more strokes up and down just in that centre line, just to make it a bit more blended and smoother. So I'm coming in at the bottom now with my darkest colour again, just going around these little braids here. I'm not going to finish the entire picture, I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes, but I will finish the rest of the braid so that you can see what it looks like. But yeah, so I'm just going around this area here. You won't have to do that if you're not using this illustration, because it probably won't have extra little braids tied around the centre, but you would just go from the bottom of the head where the long braid begins, and then just drag up some strokes there. So just exactly the same as what I'm doing now. So I've put in those strokes, bringing in the middle colour now to lengthen them. And yeah, as I was saying, I do come back in at the end to sort this crown out a little further. As you can see, the centre line at the moment, just above where I'm colouring, it's too straight. There needs to be longer strokes coming down and almost meeting in the middle, like I showed you at the start. So I am going to speed this up as soon as we get on to the rest of the braid, but I just wanted to keep this in real time so that you can see the positions of the highlights and the shadows on the crown. And I often do this with any hair that I'm colouring. I do make sure that I do have a shadowed area in the middle of it as well, so I'm not just leaving a big white patch in the centre and doing the top and the bottom. So it just makes it look a little bit more realistic to have a couple of different shining areas rather than one. So I'm using that green, the lightest colour, flicking it up and just leaving our white highlight in the centre. You can use your lightest colour as well to blend in the previous two colours. So if you want to go over the top of your dark blue and medium colour, you can do that with your green, and it will naturally just sort of blend it together, especially if you're using very, very soft pencils like I am at the moment. So your Prismas will be good for this. The Derwent Lightfast are really soft, they're absolutely lovely to use, and they blend really, really nicely together. So that's the crown basically done. As I said a couple of times now, I'm going to come back in at the end and make it look a little bit less like a big band around her head and a bit more sort of jaggedy. But you will see at the end, and I'll come back and show you. So just bringing in the light green to go over very, very lightly that white area, just so it doesn't look as harsh. But I'm not trying to diminish that white in any sense. It needs to stay where it is to make the most impact. The contrast between the very dark blue and the white is what makes it look super shiny and pop off the page. So yeah, there we go. Now I'm going to speed up the rest of the video and I'll be back to you at the end. So there we go, that is how I colour green mermaid hair on a braid or a plait. I hope that it's been helpful for you. It's exactly the same technique that I used on this page here from Mysteria. And please do let me know if you plan on using this hair colour, hair technique in your colouring pages. I would love to see them. Show me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you'll find me everywhere. So thank you very, very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time on Colour with Claire.